FY22. Renewal premium also grew by 19% to rupees 5,706 crores in H1 FY22. 13-month persistency improved by 270 basis points to 85.2 and 61-month persistency by 160 basis points to 55%. Claim paid ratio improved by 13 basis points to industry best 99.35% in FY21. Death claim run rate came down in September 2021 after peak in July 21. Pandemic reserve are at rupees 235 crores at the end of September 21. Even though the protection long-term opportunity continues to be attractive, given the ongoing pandemic, cautious approach was taken towards protection with additional underwriting controls. As a consequence, overall protection contribution reduced from 20% in H1 FY21 to 16% in H1 FY22. Individual sum assured of new business declined by 20% in H1 FY22 due to degrowth in protection business. Solvency surplus over 150% of RSM is at rupees 1,869 crore with solvency ratio of 211%. Max Life AUM crossed 1 lakh crore in Q2 of financial year 22. AUM as at September 21 was rupees 190 crore, which grew by 29% year on year, led by growth in unit linked fund and controlled fund AUM. Max Life is now the fourth largest manager of private LI AUM. Par fund size was more than rupees 50,000 crores. Max Life is now appointed as sponsor of pension fund for managing assets under National Pension Scheme and has sought IRDAI permission to set up a new company, PF or pension fund manager, in line with the regulatory requirement. Pension fund subsidiary formation is underway. Max Life recognized among the top 100 in India's best workplaces for women in 2021, studied by Great Places to Work Institute, India. MLIC has also formulated an ESG strategy comprising of 4 pillars. Work ethically and these pillars are work ethically and sustainably, care for people and community, financial responsibility, and green operations. Details of the ESG journey are included in investor release. To sum up, Max Life will continue on its trajectory of driving strong shareholder outcomes with Axis as a new JV partner. Good progress made on 5 pillars of Max Life strategy with predictable and sustainable growth, product innovation to drive margin, customer centricity across the value chain, digitization and analytics as foundation, and augment human capital as detailed above. On that note, I will hand over to the moderator to open the floor for Q&A.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The first question is from the line of Sanket Godha from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my basic question is if I look at the product mix of 1H FY21 and 1H FY22, actually the product mix has deteriorated because the protection contribution has come down from 12 to 8 and non-par contribution remained flat. But still we have 110 basis points improvement in VNB margin and ULIP contribution and par contribution has also gone up. So what explains this expansion in the margin despite a small deterioration in the product mix? That is first question. I have 2 more. Maybe after you answer this, I will ask the other 2 questions.
Hi Sanket, this is Amrit. I'll take that question. I think 2 levers there, Sanket. First one is our non-par product and the margin profile of that non-par product. As you will recall, last year we had switched on to a new product through an introduction of our newer non-par product design, which actually was of better margin profile, which in the first half, it was launched more around July, August time frame last year. So now for the full 6 months running of that product, the margin profile of that product is slightly better. The second one is a bit more of the channels and product mix play that we have leveraged. More traditional products being sold by our proprietary channels actually has helped provide a little bit of operating leverage play, which actually has benefited the overall margin profile. So these are the only two reasons which actually has caused this improvement in margin profiles.
Got it. Perfect. And the second question which I had was with respect to COVID claims. So we are still carrying the same reserves what we were carrying at the end of June. So just wanted to understand how much COVID claims we have paid in second quarter, both on gross and net basis. And that 93 crores negative operating variance which we are seeing in EV is largely the amount what we have paid because of COVID in the current quarter?
So we have disclosed the overall claims, Sanket. Actually, COVID claims, there is always a time lag and it requires a little bit of investigation of tagging them properly. So from a claim perspective, the gross claims for H1, total claims, is at 2416 and net claims is at 1404. You will see net claims increase actually very in line with how, the market has kind of experienced. We did see in quarter two, actually, our net claims were more higher. They were at 841 crores versus 563 crores in quarter one. So that's the narrative on the claim side. I will not necessarily provide a specific number for COVID claims because it does take time for the numbers to get, tagged in the specifics to come out. But your second observation is also correct. We have kept our pandemic reserve position at 235 crore at the end of H1. Some bit of this is actually also through the profit generated and profits getting routed into creation of reserves, which actually can also be seen on the EV walk that you rightly pointed out, where the operating variance of 93 odd crore largely is coming out of this extra provision that we have created.
Got it. And finally, one data keeping question. In the past, you used to disclose the absolute rupees crore figure of individual protection and group protection figures. It would be great if you can disclose it because in product mix, what you have disclosed in one of the slides doesn't include GTL when we report reported AP. So it gives a better clarity. Yeah. So if you can disclose those figures, it will be great. And if you can give it for Q1 also, it will be great.
You can derive that, Sanket, but I'll give that figure. The group AP is around 198 crores for the first half, and the individual protection was around 135 crores for the first half.
198 crores is group protection only, right?
Protection, yes.
Okay, perfect.
This is AP of group protection, and individual AP protection is 175 crores.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. A request to all the participants. Please restrict to 2 questions per participant. If time permits, please come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next question is from the line of Madhukar Ladda from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. You may go ahead with your question.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get a sense on, outlook for margins and the protection business. So we've seen some bit of slowdown in protection in this quarter, in individual protection in this quarter. And, the insurance rates have also gone up. So how do we see this trending out over the second half? And also Axis Bank as a channel, if I'm not wrong, has grown just about 12% year over year. So some comment over there would be helpful.
Thanks, Madhukar. Let me take the question. This is Prashant. Take the question on protection first. I would like to reconfirm that Max Life Insurance is a long-term view on protection, and we do want to establish ourselves as a very strong protection player. In the first half last year, when the COVID hit us for the first time, there was huge demand of protection business, and that's the reason in the first half of the year we ended up selling record protection as a percentage of total sales. However, when this year began, especially in the first half, the second COVID wave came, and and we had to restrict the supply a little bit because of restrictions from reinsurance, more friction in the business, to make sure that the underwriting norms are elevated. And really the reduction in protection business is not out of demand. I think it was more out of supply. As we embark on the second half of the journey, as we all can see that the issues of COVID have more or less settled, the business is going to reduce some of these supply side constraints. We are in active discussion with insurance partners to do that. And we are going to push the pedal hard on protection business. And I'm hopeful that in the second half of the year, we will do better than how we did in the second half of the year last year. So that's my view with respect to pricing. Your information is correct. The insurance partners across different companies have come up with price revisions. In our case, we are still to hear from our insurance partner. All likelihood there may be some price revision, but I will continue to say that India as a market offers very, very affordable prices as far as protection is concerned. Principally speaking, Max Life Insurance will like to be in profitable businesses. As you can see from our approach, there's always a good balance that we try to establish between growth and margin, including what you saw in the second quarter of the year. So that principle will get applied to protection business also. We are going to increase the prices if required to protect our margins. So in your assumptions, you shouldn't assume huge pressures on margin on protection because we will make changes or increase prices to absorb higher price from the insurance partners. That's really the sum and substance. Long term, intact, second half should be better than first half. Supply side constraints being removed, and we would like to protect our margin.
Got it. And on Axis Bank?
Sorry. Okay, Axis Bank. Axis Bank is a very strong partner, as you see, and exactly 1 year ago, during this period, Axis Bank had done phenomenally well. Actually, a large part of our growth that we saw last year was out of Axis Bank, and on a very high base, this growth actually is reasonably good. You should see improvement in growth rates as we move forward quarter on quarter.
Right. The other question I had was the others channel. That has done very well in this quarter. So that's up. So what does that include and what's driving that?
Madhukar, this is Amrit. The others actually largely is, I'm assuming you're referring to other than Axis actually, which is predominantly, the YB relationship that we carry and also set of urban cooperatives and, a few partner relationships that we carry. So they were at a very low base actually as compared to last year, which has, driven the growth that we have kind of seen. For example, the YB relationship for the first half has grown, in the likes of 19-20%. Though on a 2-year CAGR, still it's lower, but because it was on a low base, the growth numbers looks quite robust.
No, but actually I was not referring to the other banks. I was referring to like this proprietary Axis and then other banks, and then there is a last sort of miscellaneous category, right?
Which, if you could refer me to the reference point that you're making, I will probably be able to answer that, which channel you're specifically asking actually.
Just a second.
Are you referring to slide number 70?
Yeah.
Sorry, which you said slide 70?
Yes.
It's actually a very insignificant part of the business actually. So maybe I can take this question with you offline because I'm unable to. What I can give you as a color is within proprietary. Our e-commerce channel continues to actually demonstrate strong growth. Our specific channel that we have created for cross-sell is actually also doing quite well. And now in sequential months, since the lockdowns are getting opened up, even agency is coming back from a strong momentum. This others that you're talking about, which is almost like a negligible, less than 0% kind of contribution. I will come back to you the specifics of it as you speak.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question, sir. You have kind of partly answered it in the questions before, but growth has been slightly sluggish last 2-3 months. October was also pretty much flat. So how do we look at this front going ahead? If you could give us a sense of what exactly has happened over the last 2-3 months, and how do you look at it going ahead?
That's a very good question. I think the answer lies in what was happening last year. You may recall that Max Life Insurance was firing all cylinders and we were performing significantly better than other people. And answer lies in 2-year CAGR, perhaps. So if you see our 2-year CAGR, we are still better than the top players, better than the private industry, etc. We have 2 large quarters. Somebody asked me this question in our last investor call, that quarter 2 and quarter 3 will be difficult. We'd like to share that our VNB growth in quarter 2 last year was 41%. In quarter 3, it was 65%. So really, we have very large basis to deal with. On that 41% growth, we have grown 15%. So, that in a way, in absolute terms might appear a bit lower, but overall, in the context of the high base, that's pretty good. As far as our growth is concerned, you were right. Coming out of COVID, we did find that our own channels took a while to come up, and we are now seeing reasonable growth for the month of October. For example, our own channels have grown about 18-19%. And in the month of October, again going back, Axis Bank last year had grown phenomenally well. Our October month growth last year was 50%. So really, some of this has to be seen in that context. I think as the year progresses, starting November, we should start to see more and more growth, number one. Number two, I think there was a bias to drive VNB and margins in quarter 2. Some bit of that we'd like to readjust with growth. So we will try to strike a right balance between product mix, margin, and growth, and that will definitely have a positive impact on the months coming up as well as in quarter 4. Again, we'd like to say that we have a very large base of last year, quarter 3 also to deal with. And our performance has to be seen in the context of how we did last year.
Okay. And sir, any sense you could give us on how you're looking at margins, given that if you want to push growth here, as of now, as you said, the focus was more VNB margin. So where do you see that going in general? Because you have previously guided for 25-26% kind of a number.
I will take you to similar numbers. Actually, 25-26. Between 25-26 is where we would like to be, similar to last year, and we would like to rebalance the product mix in a manner so that we are hitting this kind of margin as well as are able to drive reasonably robust growth.
Great, sir. Thank you so much for answering. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Saraf from Jefferies India. Please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thanks for the opportunity. So many of my questions have been answered. I have just one on the non-par savings side. So this quarter, the shares of non-par savings moved up sharply, 34%. So where do we see this? Is this the kind of a cap of non-par savings that we want to maintain? Because traditionally we have said that it should be around 30-35% kind of level. Secondly, in this quarter, in October, especially the yield curve seems to have flattened a bit and front end has moved up. So has that in any way affected the demand for the non-par savings guarantees from our side? And could this lead to lower margins in non-par savings versus what we have seen in the past few quarters?
So I think if I got your question right, because the voice was a bit muffled, I think the first question was how do we see non-par savings, a guaranteed product, in our portfolio, what kind of ranges are we comfortable. As we have been reiterating, the 30 to 35% levels is where we would like this particular product to kind of remain. That's the first point. And I think the second question that you were trying to ask is from a demand perspective. Was that the question?
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to say is that in October we have seen that yield curve is flattened a bit, and especially the front end has moved up. So what implications does that have for non-par savings, both from the growth perspective or demand side, and also from margin perspective?
So, Abhishek, on that, we monitor this very closely, almost on a monthly basis, and our decision of how should we reprice, etc., is a factor of the yield curve, the kind of hedging rates that we are getting in the market, and obviously the competing kind of product forms. But within the non-par category, actually, we do have multiple levers. We have levers of the payment term variant that we are selling, the nature of the product that we are selling, whether it's an income design, whether it's an endowment design. And I think among all of these mixes, we try to optimize and manage for the margin profiles. Where we are sitting today, I think we are quite comfortable on how the margins are getting emerged, and even some of these movements that you're seeing on yield curve. We are quite okay that there are offsetting levers that we have to solve for some bit of these. You will also see us do certain set of introductions also in this particular product category, which will also help us offset any of these pressures that can be foreseen in the near future.
Okay, thanks for that, Amrit. And do you expect this kind of demand trend in non-par savings to extend further, let's say, into the next year? Because few of the insurance companies have been indicating that if yield curve flattens out, probably the kind of growth that you want to see in non-par savings will not be seen going forward. And because I'm asking because non-par savings has been one of the key anchor for our margins over the last several quarters.
If you look at in the industry, and I think if you go back in time also, when the yield curves were more flatter, you would have seen the non-par demand, depending upon who wanted to sell and the kind of supply people wanted to create, there was always demand available in the market. This is a product form which kind of is a parcel of portfolio strategy an investor can kind of look into, which is around saying that a component of my assets being allocated are towards guaranteed kind of design. So if the question is, can we keep doing 30-35% kind of penetration levels, I have no reason for us to believe that that's not possible in a market like India, given there are always a set of consumers which are looking for the guaranteed proposition as part of their portfolio balancing act that exists. The other additional thing on non-par is if the interest rate does move up, it also creates an opportunity for us to also reprice it and make it more favorable as a product form as well. So these are some levers that are available. I think from a demand perspective, see no reasons that delivering 30-35% of our business sitting in this category could come under any pressure.
Yeah, thanks. That's very helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ajox Frederick from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. And sorry for harping on this again. So the growth slowdown was predominantly because of the last year's base having that one particular product. And it was a good move last year. In fact, a fantastic move. One, are we working on some kind of moves like that so that we prop up growth again? That's one. And two, on protection, if we are cautious on the pure term side, why not we kind of push the return of premium, because ours is quite balanced on the protection side, and some of our peers are doing pretty well on the return of premium side. So those are the two questions, both on the growth strategy. Thanks.
Okay. Of course, there are a series of product launches planned in the second half of the year, and as we speak today, we are going to launch a very large par design targeted towards all the customers and most channels. So we are going to do that. In the month of November, we have a new non-par design coming up, and in the first quarter next year, we are going to have another unit. So there are a lot of product launches planned in the second half of the year, and I feel very optimistic about the avenues that they are going to create. In the first half of the year, as per the product calendar that we had, we were to get into, in a big way, the protection, health, and well-being space. And we launched all those product designs. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the kind of push that we would have ideally given in a pre-COVID situation, we couldn't give for the reasons that we just explained to you. But those are long-term product designs, and they're going to help us as we move. So to answer your question first, very, very bullish about new product launches in the second half of the year. Feel very optimistic about the avenues. Talking about the protection plans, yes, close to about 25 to 28% of our protection is already return on premium. We always like to remain focused on return on premium kind of product design. But if you heard me correctly, I did say that starting October, November, our view on protection is going to be far more bullish. Now that the fear of COVID is somewhat diluted. Also, to talk about some of the numbers, we called our customers, protection customers, about a month ago, and we called about 15,000 of our protection customers, and we found that about 93% of all the customers had already taken the vaccine, at least one dose. And about 65 to 68% had taken both doses. So the overall coverage, and this we are talking about representative samples, overall coverage of vaccine is pretty good, and we feel quite optimistic about the avenues for driving protection business. So as we speak, we are trying to eliminate the supply side constraints at our end, as well as working with the reinsurance partners, so that we could go back to the protection levels that we witnessed last year. Like I mentioned, we are a long-term players on protection. On the online space, we are number one on protection, continue to remain number one, and our long-term view towards optimizing the outcomes of the business, protection is a big lever.
That's very helpful, sir. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shreya Shivani from CLSA India. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I have two questions. First is on the new product that Amrit spoke about, the new non-par product which was launched in July, August last year, and which has a better margin profile. If you can help me understand, in the non-par mix of 31% in 1H, how much is the share of this new product? It will help us understand how much this product, how rapidly this has been scaled up. And second question is a data keeping question. It's on our retail protection. How much of our retail protection is done by our own online channel, and how much of it is done by web aggregators?
So first question on the new product, which is the Smart Wealth plan. Almost all of it is now Smart Wealth plan. There is no old product that is kind of sold. So 100% of the business is Smart Wealth plan. On the second question, you're specifically asking whether the e-commerce actually, the split of aggregators and non-aggregators?
Yeah, for retail protection specifically.
So that would be around 40 to 45% would be our own, and 55% would be from aggregator space.
Okay, and in overall retail protection that which is sold, how much is
e-commerce actually?
So you've given me a split within the e-commerce, 40-45 your own and higher segment from web aggregator. But within the entire retail protection that is sold, how much both of them combined? How much do they make?
50-50 right now, online and offline.
Oh, okay, 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Avinash Singh from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good morning. Couple of questions, not related to really quarter. So first one on your MPS or pension managers license, as well as also you have become part of this account aggregator system. Of course, these both are sort of a long-term strategy where benefit will accrue over long term. So in the near term, any sort of impact on your costs or capital due to, I mean, if at all any? So that is question number one. And second, again, if you can just help us, of course, we have some sort of a cursory comment in the presentation, but progress or sort of a changes in the non-operational part, that's, I mean, not related to Max Life, also Max Financial. I mean, what sort of approach we have now towards, the structural simplification of Max Life and Max Financial, as well as a sort of any sort of updates on MSI's share swap, as well as Axis additional 7% stake. Thank you. These are two questions.
Thanks, Avinash. I think first one, as we indicated in the opening remarks, the PFRDA, the pension fund regulator, has actually given us a nod to allow us to become a pension fund manager. And we are in the process of, right now seeking regulatory approval from our regulator, IRDAI, and then subsequently, there is a time window and a time horizon provided to set up a subsidiary. As part of our application, the PFRDA actually prescribes 50 crores that needs to be kind of put in, as capital into the business. And, you can add another 5 odd crores. So 55 crores of total capital we will have to put in, which will get reduced from our solvency from a competition perspective. So that's the kind of commitment that we will need to put into to get this particular business started, which actually, from an overall solvency perspective, it 1.5% kind of implication. It's not a material one. The second question on structural simplification, as you are aware, we have filed to the regulator on the MSI transaction. And I think the correspondence with the regulator, we will not comment on it on the call. It continues to be in conversation with the regulator, looking for approval of that particular transaction. Post that transaction, as you are aware, the step-up of Axis transaction is supposed to happen. So we are hopeful the moment this gets concluded, very quickly we will move that step of the transaction.
Okay, on this follow that initial when that this Axis allotment to Axis, the initial the filing had come, of course, the modification of the plan. So there had certain sort of a milestone related terms, including sort of within a defined timeline. If at all the merger was not to go through for any reason, Axis has that the put option. So is in the current agreement also that put option exists?
So the current agreement is very simple, and some of those conditions have been eliminated, as we always communicated. And with whatever agreement we have, the timelines, we are well within the timelines. We are pursuing it as envisaged at this point of time, and they are all sequential.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there any put option now with Axis or not for their stake?
You mean for what? For merger?
No. So, I mean, in the initial agreement, Axis had the option. I mean, of course, that if at all that Max Financial mergers does not happen for any reason, Axis can sort of sell it Max Life stake to Max Financial at some 294 per share or something of that sort. That sort of they had to put that option that okay they can sell it that Max.
The current contract has been very very simplistic, very simplified. There are some milestones which have to be achieved, but there are no put options.
Okay, very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Neeraj Toshniwal from UBS Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm audible?
Yes, Neeraj.
So, wanted to understand your strategy in credit life with Axis on board. Though it's very granular, but it has been picking up in the recent quarters. That is one. Second, on the target product mix, I guess we wanted to pull down ULIP as we communicated in the first quarter, and that we did in the second quarter to be aligned similar level at the first half. But this is something against the industry trend, which have been seeing very strong ULIP flows. So wanted to understand what is our target mix we are looking at, and your thoughts on that. Thank you.
So, hi Neeraj, this is Amrit. I think on credit life we have reiterated multiple times. It's a tactical play for us. It's not a strategic choice. As with the disbursement volume picking up in the industry, we have also seen strong growth actually happening in this particular segment. And credit life business actually has grown almost 200% plus in the first half for us. Though it continues to remain tactical, given the kind of margins that we are getting from the industry, and the long-term sustainability of margins more important in this particular line of business. And our approach towards this line of business will remain in a similar manner, which is a bit tactical rather than making it a large part of our VNB contribution in structural volumes. On ULIPs, actually, I think if I got your question right, you are saying there is a large momentum of ULIP which is being experienced. What's your view on it? I think overall we will like to remain balanced from a product mix perspective, though some bit of quarters ups and downs will keep happening. Generally, the last quarter is heavier on ULIPs because of being a large quarter, and ULIPs historically have been higher that particular quarter. We will see some of those trends also pan out for us. We will leverage it to an extent, but will try to remain overall balanced. I think the related question always there is from a quarter two is a 29% margin, and as in a call someone had asked what the margin outlook would look like, and we said it could be more in the range of 25-26. It's a balanced mix of sales and margins and overall mix that we try to optimize for. So we will leverage it to an extent, but you will not necessarily see us swing in large volumes towards ULIP. We will remain more balanced.
Oh. And how much you would have provided this quarter for the reserving? We are maintaining similar reserves, but how much additional we would have provided this quarter?
So we spoke of it. I think from the profits, around near about 90-100 crores has been provided, which you can also see in the EV box that we have provided.
And on the protection price hike, I think we already had hike in April. So are we charging further hike in our portfolio?
It is a very competitive thing, and we always like to look at how the competition is moving. With the hike that we did in April, we continue to be aligned to the competition. Now, on that base, competition is going to increase the prices. Our last hike didn't include the impact of COVID wave 2. So we should expect some bit of price hike. What will be the extent of the price hike? We will be able to determine that after we have concluded our discussion with the insurance partner.
Okay, got it. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Gada from DSC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. A couple of questions. First, Amrit, I know you answered this multiple times around margins, but just to be clear, if you could give a sense of the margin differential between the last price hike versus the current one in the non-par saving business, that will help us understand, part of the margin movement. And the second question related to margin is, in the current mix, the share of protection is relatively, less compared to what our aspiration is. So in that context, as we move to a more normalized environment, do you see the current 25% margin increasing even further by at least couple of 100 basis points as the protection share improves? Yeah, those are two questions.
So Dhaval, actually on specific product level and segment level margin profiles we don't share, but I indicated the reasons why the margin actually has improved. The non-par product that is now running through and which is a dominant or which is the largest, which is predominantly the majority, is actually a better margin profile product. And secondly was leveraging some bit of product mix plays within the channel segments. Actually, the way we kind of wrote bit more participating designs in our agency in the first half actually created us the leverage play that we got for us, which actually is the reason why the margin profiles have improved. On the second question, I think over a longer horizon, if the question is, from a margin expansion over a longer horizon, definitely the answer is yes. I think the mix of protection, annuity, riders, all of these will come in play with respect to expanding the margin profiles as an organization, as an industry as well. However, if you're asking us a near-term question, I think it's the right balancing of product mix, which will also come in play, even though in the second half, the momentum on protection will come back. But somewhere also there will be a balancing act with respect to the ULIP proportion also coming in play, which will have some of those balancing elements kind of come through. The only point that we are trying to reiterate, as we have been saying since the start of the year, given we are on a very high base of VNB growth as that we demonstrated last year, our attempt would be to actually ensure that we hold on or expand the margin profile and hence land up between 25 to 26% margin profile for a full year basis.
Understood. And just one last thing on protection. So, pre-3Q FY20, the growth momentum was quite strong over the last, several quarters. We've seen sort of tapering down. 2-year CAGRs are flat on retail protection. So, just in your view, when do we see normalization and back to that 3Q FY20 kind of growth momentum? Any thoughts that you have? Do you see post the current price hike that you anticipate in your estimate, when should this normal run rate come back?
So the protection CAGR actually on a 2-year basis is still actually, in the ranges of 20-22% kind of levels actually.
I was referring to retail, yeah.
I'm talking about retail only. I'm talking retail. So even retail protection for us, the 2-year CAGR is actually growing in the ranges of 17 to 20%. I've been corrected actually. So there is momentum that we see even in the first half. Now in the second half, I think once some of the supply constraints, which we have already actually removed, we have eased in underwriting norms, we have increased the sum assureds, limits that we are taking. Earlier there was a big embargo on all substandard lives. There has been relaxation given in those substandard lives as well. I think the momentum will start coming back and you will see, the protection momentum improve from here onwards.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Saraf from Jefferies India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question again. So, sir, this is on protection side itself. So, of course, we are expecting that the momentum should pick up. But what is your view on the fact that if prices are hiked across the board, how will the demand be impacted? I think that we are building in not a material impact on demand, but don't you think that means consumers are going to react differently, and maybe a person who was buying let's say 2 crore per sum assured, he may actually settle in for lower sum assured given that the prices have gone up materially over the last 1.5 years.
Yeah, we are talking about life insurance. We're not talking about commodities, and hence the demand supply math with respect to price increase doesn't follow. Normal process.
Sorry, there's an echo coming.
Abhishek, may I request you to mute your line from your side, please?
Yeah, Abhishek. So if you look at the prices are comparable. I mean, internationally speaking, India still continues to be on the lower side. We haven't seen a huge impact of on demand because the prices go up, and we're talking about life insurance, we're talking about life, and people are far more flexible with respect to that. At the end of the day, price will be determined by market forces, and we are aware of that. The hypothesis has proven multiple times over the last 2-3 years that the price increase doesn't have material impact on demand.
Okay. And one last thing on the group protect. So, are we participating in any of the GTI business? Because last few quarters we've been seeing that we have stayed away. So are we trying to get into that business in this quarter or anytime soon?
So, Abhishek, on GTL business, we have participated. We have been all our renewal accounts. We have been honoring those accounts. In fact, the GTL business has also grown around 18% in the first half, and in the second quarter, almost 59-60% kind of growth. So we have been very selective about it, and we have priced for the risk. Given this is a annual kind of a product, we have priced for the risk, and we are participating. Now both on renewal and even on new clients, though keeping the overall risk perspective in consideration.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and one to ask a question. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Gada from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just one follow-up on retail protection. So, Amrit, you mentioned the 2-year CAGR growth. So, I was just trying to understand what's been the volume CAGR on that basis, in your view?
Volume, number of policies?
Yeah, number of policies, yeah.
Just give me a second. I actually don't have that ready. So there is a decline there, Dhaval, from a number of policies perspective over a 2-year CAGR.
Approx?
It's around 7% kind of a decline has happened, Dhaval, there.
7%. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And now I hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thanks, Nirav. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being on Max Financial Earnings Call. We look forward to more such interaction in the future. Thank you once again. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Max Financial Services Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your line. Thank you.